Time for our take on some of the biggest news stories of the day. Tom Swarbrick and Ashley James are here. Good morning to both of you. Lovely to have you here. There's a story about Prince Harry on the front of a lot of the newspapers with regards to his charity, Ashley. And I think when you're sort of sitting from the side, you understand how important this charity has been to him, the purpose that it offers. After 20 years to be stepping down feels like quite a wrench. Yeah,
this is really sad. So his charity, Sentebale, he founded in 2006 with his friend Prince Seiso, and it's basically to continue the legacy of both their mothers, obviously Princess Diana and Queen Mama Hato, I think she's called a Hato, I'm not sure, sorry. And we don't really know too much at the moment, but basically Prince Harry and everyone on the board has stepped down in protest of Sophie Chandorka. Again, sorry if I've not said that correct, but she was appointed chair in 2023. She's a Zimbabwe-born lawyer. And so she is claiming that she has been the victim of bullying, harassment, misogyny, misogynoir, and they are claiming that she's trying to take the charity in a direction that they don't want it to go in. So they have all quit in protest. So at the moment, obviously, we don't know the ins and outs of why, but I think this is really sad. I actually went to a Sentebale event at the Kensington Palace Gardens, and Coldplay were performing, and it was amazing. And you could just tell it's something that's so personal to Harry, to Prince Harry. Obviously, he went on his gap year. He saw firsthand. You know, he said that like working with or being around the children there really like touched him, and he claims that being around the people that he spent the time with there, they were like his second family, and so it feels very heartbreaking on his side that it's come to this.
I think purpose is a hugely important thing for Harry, isn't it? And we know that Invictus is still going strong, but this was the other thing that was a sort of mainstay, and it has been for nearly 20 years now.
And sounds like it's ended pretty acrimoniously, certainly from the reports that are in the papers this morning. Charity Commission involved looking at the running of the organisation. There's lawsuits back and forth from the chair of the organisation about trying to remove her from her position.
She was asked to stand down.
She was asked to stand down, refused to stand down.
Yeah.
There's seems to be all sorts of back and forth about where the charity is going to be based, whether it's going to be based nearer to or in Lesotho rather than in events in London, what have you. So that it does seem to have ended pretty badly and acrimoniously, and you wonder what the purpose is going to be, whether actually the work that he finds so fulfilling and rewarding and clearly helps a lot of particularly children can be done through a different vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, let's move on from that story now. Do you have nicknames for anyone in your radio station?
Maybe. I might be about to find out.
Office workers could be banned from calling their colleagues rude nicknames. I'm sure yours aren't rude.
Again, we're about to find out.
After one lawyer was taken to a tribunal and forced to pay £31,000 for dishing out offensive nicknames in the office.
Well, look, I think this has got to be, it's got to be done. The way in which this man did it, I don't think is particularly great. I don't know that you can go around calling your colleagues Jabba the Hutt if they don't want to be called the idiot, Mr. Toad. You know, I don't know that they can be called these things if they don't want to be called these things. Mad Paul. Paul is mad.
It does sound like the Ricky Gervais character,
exactly.
doesn't it? That's what it sounds like.
You know, I've worked in newsrooms for 15 years. There's lots of nicknames flying around. If the reporter refuses to go on a story, refuses to leave the building to go and find it, they're referred to as the eternal flame because they never go out. So it's just, you know, these sort of things. I think that's OK. The goalkeeper who is called the Count because he doesn't like crosses, you know?
Yeah.
But that's like almost like witty humour, whereas I think the problem is with name calling. The problem is with name calling, it's quite often like discriminatory. So like calling someone Jabba the Hutt, that's clearly attack on their appearance. Often with discrimination, people are attacked, let's say, for their appearance or their gender or their race or their age, their personal traits, and that's where it kind of like moves into harassment. And actually, we all just want to like go to work, do our job, have as good a time as possible. And imagine being on the receiving end of being called some of these names, like Jabba the Hutt. But it doesn't make it correct, and I think it also creates this sort of toxic culture. And just because it's maybe been done, especially in certain industries, I think, you know, are much more cutthroat than others with that. I feel like workplaces thrive on mutual respect, and it's very different to like if you have like a joke between friends and you have a name for each other. That is very different.
When it's done with affection. Or when it's done
Exactly, when it's framed in the right way.
It's like-
Because actually, it's good. It's nice to go to work and have fun
Yeah.
too.
Pete from school.
Yes.
Pete from school.
Providing it's not someone being a bully.
Pete from school had a stammer. He was known as Repeat. So that, I just think, you know, it's
And
that
how
not...
did Pete from school...
I think it depends how
But
Pete feels
hypothetically,
about
how
that.
Pete would,
How did Pete feel about that?
He's fine.
I was fascinated by this guy was a lawyer. So you kind of think, in some workspaces, you would think they wouldn't be thinking about the legal ramifications of having nicknames like this. But this guy was a lawyer, so clearly you would think there is there's a chance that this isn't going to go down very well with your colleagues. Yeah.
I mean...
And also, he admitted using inappropriate, unprofessional, rude nicknames on numerous occasions.
£31,000 is quite a lot of money, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, actions have consequences.
Yeah.
Words have consequences, don't they? I remember someone saying to me at school, I used to get called ashtray and I hated it. It's so silly now.
Were you a smoker?
No, well, a 4-year-old smoker.
Yeah, no, I mean...
I remember I hated it so much, and I remember a teacher saying, like, sticks and stones will break your bones. And then someone else at school was like, yeah, and words will break your heart. And I think that's so profound because words do really stick with you. And obviously, as an adult, I don't care if I get called ashtray. But as a child,
But it wasn't a
really
witticism.
upset
It was
me.
just a name because it had ash in it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It wasn't a reference. It's not clever.
Even
the annoying
like
bit.
you being witty about Pete with the stammer, that could be considered a microaggression.
Oh, sure.
Because if he, you know, it's a disability, and if he were to then be on the receiving end of that. So I think it depends. If you're really good mates with Pete and he's like very on board with it, I think that's very different to almost having to get used to tolerating something.
I can't imagine, because I guess you were very popular, so you wouldn't have had a nickname at school. You wouldn't have had a nickname at school. You were really popular at school, I get.
No,
Sheps.
Deals.
Simple.
You, on the other hand.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I was Sheps.
Sheps. I call you Sheps, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were called that.
Very,
Did you have a nickname?
very average.
Oh, loads. Terrible.
Did you?
Can't
Big
say them
Bird.
there.
Yeah.
Did you?
Big Bird.
Big Bird. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
Well, no, because...
Have you always been tall?
Because you're
Just because
fluffy and
apparently
yellow.
I was cheap, so I got called Big Bird.
You said that words can break your heart. One thing that won't break your heart anymore, Ashley, is being non-monogamous. I know it's easy for me to say.
I actually think this is a really
You're not making
interesting
a...
one.
No.
No, OK, great. You're not saying that actually...
Just to clarify, I am monogamous.
Yeah.
I am monogamous.
Mahogany.
We've got 45 seconds to explain why
Go,
not
Ashley,
being
go.
monogamous.
Basically, long story short, that scientists claim that now monogamous relationships are no more superior. People can be happy in... do we call it polyamorous relationships?
Open.
And I think...
Open.
I just want to say quickly that it's very much down to consent, and I'd rather be in a polyamorous relationship where you're both on board with it than be in a monogamous relationship where one partner cheats.
Yeah. It's just, how do you start that conversation? You know what I mean?
How do you even say it?
How do you,
Let's start there.
How do you even say it?
I'd like a pronunciation lesson, please, and then I'll go on from there.
Yeah, send your thoughts
Thank
in
you.
while we go to the weather. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.